tropical storm warning in effect. A tropical storm warning means tropical storm force winds are expected somewhere within this area within the next 36 hours. Locations affected: Perth Amboy, New Brunswick. Wind, latest local forecast, equivalent tropical storm force winds. Peak wind forecast, 40 to 50 miles per hour with gusts to 70 miles per hour. Window for tropical storm force winds, Tuesday afternoon until Tuesday evening. Threat to life and property that includes typical forecast uncertainty and track, size and intensity, potential for winds 39 to 57 miles per hour. The wind threat has remained nearly steady from the previous assessment. Plan for hazardous wind of equivalent tropical storm force. Prepare. Remaining efforts to protect property should be completed as soon as possible. Prepare for limited wind damage. Act. Move to safe shelter before the wind becomes hazardous. Potential impacts: limited damage to porches, awnings, carports, sheds, and uninsured mobile homes. Unsecured lightweight objects blown about. Many large tree limbs broken off. A few trees snapped or uprooted, but with greater numbers in places where trees are shallow-rooted. Some fences and roadway signs blown over. A few roads impassable from debris, particularly within urban or heavily wooded places. Hazardous driving conditions on bridges and other elevated roadways. Scattered power and communications outages. Storm surge, latest local forecast, localized storm surge possible. Peak storm surge inundation, the potential for up to 2 feet above ground somewhere within surge-prone areas. Window of concern, Tuesday morning until early Wednesday morning. Threat to life and property that includes typical forecast uncertainty and track, size and intensity, potential for storm surge flooding greater than 1 foot above ground. The storm surge threat has remained nearly steady from the previous assessment. Plan for storm surge flooding greater than 1 foot above ground. Prepare. Complete preparations for storm surge flooding, especially in low-lying vulnerable areas, before conditions become unsafe. Act. Leave immediately if evacuation orders are given for your area. Potential impacts: limited, localized inundation is possible with storm surge flooding mainly along tidal creeks and rivers and in low-lying spots. Sections of nearby roads and parking lots could become overspread with surge water. Dangerous driving conditions are possible in places where surge water covers the road. Flooding rain, latest local forecast, flash flood watch is in effect. Peak rainfall amounts, additional 2-4 inches, with locally higher amounts. Threat to life and property that includes typical forecast uncertainty and track, size and intensity, potential for major flooding rain. The flooding rain threat has remained nearly steady from the previous assessment. Emergency plans should include the potential for major flooding from heavy rain. Evacuations and rescues are likely. Prepare. Strongly consider protective actions, especially if you are in an area vulnerable to flooding. Act. Heed any flood watches and warnings. Failure to take action will likely result in serious injury or loss of life. Potential impacts: extensive, major rainfall flooding may prompt many evacuations and rescues. Rivers and tributaries may rapidly overflow their banks in multiple places. Small streams, creeks, canals, arroyos, and ditches may become dangerous rivers. In mountain areas, destructive runoff may run quickly down valleys while increasing susceptibility to rock slides and mudslides. Flood control systems and barriers may become stressed. Flood waters can enter many structures within multiple communities, some structures becoming uninhabitable or washed away. Many places where flood waters may cover escape routes. Streets and parking lots become rivers of moving water with underpasses submerged. Driving conditions become dangerous. Many road and bridge closures with some weakened or washed out. Tornado. Latest local forecast. Situation is somewhat favorable for tornadoes. Threat to life and property that includes typical forecast uncertainty and track, size and intensity, potential for a few tornadoes. The tornado threat has remained nearly steady from the previous assessment. Emergency plans should include the potential for a few tornadoes. Prepare. If your shelter is particularly vulnerable to tornadoes, prepare to relocate to safe shelter before hazardous weather arrives. Act. If a tornado warning is issued, be ready to shelter quickly. Potential impacts. Limited. The occurrence of isolated tornadoes can hinder the execution of emergency plans during tropical events. A few places may experience tornado damage, along with power and communications disruptions. Locations could realize roofs peeled off buildings, chimneys toppled, mobile homes pushed off foundations or overturned, large treetops and branches snapped off, shallow-rooted trees knocked over, moving vehicles blown off roads, and small boats pulled from moorings.